Hey, sports card fans, it's John, Boggs fan. Hope you're all doing well. It's been about 2 months since I have picked up a card from my 100 cards for $100,000 list. But right before the end of the year, I picked up card number 30. Nice even number to end the year. Card number 30 is one that I have had on my radar for at least 6 months, maybe even longer. It's one that I've always wanted, and I originally had it that I was wanting to go for a PSA 9 copy of this card. And at the time I put my list together, that card was going for in a 5 for about $100. Well, kept looking at PSA 5s. I would keep getting outbid and just decided to move on to other cards. I was trying to build a Koryastrzemski run, and there were other cards that caught my attention, and so it sort of faded from my attention a little bit. But recently, I started looking again to see if I could pick up a copy of the card. Again, looking at PSA 5s, a lot of them were off-center, just didn't meet my eye appeal that I look for in vintage cards. And so I thought, hey, let me see if there are any PSA 4 copies out there. Drop 2 conditions down from what would be a collector grade PSA 6. Again, didn't need a 6. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll see if there are any PSA 4s out there, maybe even save some money. Well, I found a PSA 4. Centering was amazing. Corners didn't look that bad. And so I went after it, and again, I got outbid. And because of the good eye appeal, it sold for, I think, slightly above the high comp for a PSA 4. Well, I didn't let that discourage me. Shortly after that, another PSA 4 came up, won that one, and won it for all in around $85, which was about $20 less than that other PSA 4 sold for, and in my opinion, had just as nice eye appeal. So let's turn the camera around and show off which card is card number 30 on my list of 100 cards for $100,000. All right, here we go. The card in question, finally have it as part of my collection. The 1966 Topps Jim Palmer rookie card. And what attracted me to this card is that pretty much dead on centering. Yeah, you can see there's obviously issues with the corners. All right, those 2 bottom ones, maybe not so much the top, but the bottom corners definitely have some wear to them. But overall, clean registration. There is a print mark. There's a very common print mark that you see in the Jim Palmer rookie card here. Not all examples have it, but I would say more often than not, I see this little blemish, and it's that little black mark right there above his back there. It's just a common, it must have gotten a little dust particle or something like that in the printing process. Very common to see that little mark there on this Jim Palmer card. Looking at the back, generally speaking, the back looks, upon first inspection, looks really nice. Maybe a little off center on the left hand side, but generally speaking, nice and clean. Now, that's upon first inspection. If you've been following my channel and seeing the grades of cards that I've been picking up, I've become a bit of a fan of PSA 4s for cards from the 60s, especially on the ones that are the more expensive ones, where PSA 5s, again, I could save a lot of money by going with PSA 4s. And I have been able to find copies that are very well centered. But I'm also aware that in a PSA 4, you run the risk of getting a very nice eye appeal card, but there may be some slight crease on the card. And sure enough, this one does have a slight crease. Let's see if I can point it out to you here. It may be hard to see in the camera, but in this top right hand corner, let's see if it'll zoom in. You may be able to notice right along there, there is just the slightest crease. But what's sort of nice is the coloration of the cardboard there. It's not meant to be a perfect white back, I don't believe. So it has that tannish look, and it sort of hides that crease. Now it does present itself on the front. If you look at the angle, and I almost had it right there, you see by the J and I in Jim, the card sort of has like a bit of it folds down a little bit. So it does affect slightly the front of the card. But again, if you have to, in my opinion, if you have to look that close to find a crease or some imperfection, then it doesn't bother me one bit, because when I look at this card, first thing I notice, other than the image of Jim Palmer, is the centering. And to me, that's the most important. It's that initial eye appeal. So I'm extremely happy to add this 66 Jim Palmer rookie card to my collection, even though it has a numerical grade of 4. And like I said, it was maybe on the higher end of comps, but it was not over comps. And again, saved some money from the $100 that I thought I would have to spend for PSA 5. Saved $15 by going with a 4. So since I have this Jim Palmer here, I thought I'd quickly show off some of the other Jim Palmer cards in my collection. A long ways away from even completing a vintage run of his, let alone going into the 80s to do a complete player run. But following the 66, the next one I have is his 74 in a PSA 7. I've been looking at every once in a while I'll look at a 73, just haven't pulled a trigger on that yet, but hope to get one of those fairly soon. Then I jumped to the 1976 tops, and also in a PSA 7. I love those two images there, the 74 and 76. It really shows off his, like, top to bottom, his almost like 12-6 straight up and down pitching motion and follow through. If you haven't seen like video of Jim Palmer pitching, he really had that exaggerated straight up and down arm motion. So after the 76 is a card that I fairly recently showed off, a new pickup of mine. It's the 1977 Topps Victory Leaders from 76 in a PSA 7. And then next we move up to one of my favorites of his is 78. Of course, I'm partial to 78. This one's in a nice PSA 9. And then another 1978 card featuring Palmer is the 1977 Victory Leaders. I have this in a PSA 8, along with another Hall of Famer, Steve Carlton. Then I have his 1979 in a PSA 8. And finally, his 1980, also in a PSA 8. So that's my Jim Palmer run. Now, again, looking back at the rookie card that I picked up. For these videos here, I've been letting you know, looking back at the initial budget I had for these cards, what I thought I would have to spend, and this is going back to November of 2021. So a little over a year now. A year it would be 13 months that I've been working on this, and I've already picked up card number 30. According to what I thought I would have to pay to acquire those 30 cards in the grades that I had originally anticipated on buying, I would have had to spend $4,925. The actual cost to me for those 30 cards, now again, some of them I hate, like the Palmer here, I dropped down a grade. Others, there have been a couple that I've dropped down 2 grades, but still found copies that meet my eye appeal test, and I've been able to save some money. So what I've actually spent on those 30 cards is $4,160. So I am to the good of $765. So I don't think I've done too bad there with those 30 cards in my collection. All right, there you go. Would love to know your thoughts on the example of the Jim Palmer rookie card that I picked up. Would that be an example that you would want in your collection? Would that small little crease bother you? Would you prefer a collector grade 6 or corners more important to you? Again, love to know your thoughts. There's no right or wrong answer. I know some people prefer sharp corners, not so much on they don't care about centering. Others, centering is more important. They don't mind the corners, like myself. So again, would just love your thoughts on this pickup here of the 1966 Jim Palmer rookie card number 30 on my list of 100 cards for $100,000. Well, that's all I have for you. So until next time, thanks for watching.